Just coughed, but the Lord can help us, and we appreciate Him, and appreciate all that He's done for us. And I thought I was listening to Scotty there, and talking about being a witness, and I thought we are lacking. We are lacking, and I thought I don't want to be lacking when it comes to the service of God. I was listening to David Gibbs, and I refer to him a lot. And he's talking about his grandpa. And he said whenever his grandpa would get down to pray, he would just simply say, "Lord, I lack." And I thought about that. And I thought there's a lot of things that we're lacking in.
Yeah, there is.
And one thing is our outreach
Right.
to the lost. And we draw ourselves up in this shell, and one of the hardest things that it is for me to do is to run into somebody that I know is living a life of immoral, an immoral life, or doing things that is an abomination in the eyes of God. And they're proud of it. Brother Steve, it's hard for me to walk up and just try to present God to them.
Right.
But who more needs God than someone like that?
That's right.
And I thought with, sin. Sometimes we look at sin and we call it petty sin. But there is no difference in sin. It all separates us from the love of God.
Right.
And no matter how big or how little we may think it is, it's still a sin in the eyes of God. And He died for all of us. And I appreciate the Lord. And I thought I've got a little thought on my heart tonight. And I had it on my mind for a week or so now. And this week we had a few nights meeting with Brother Ewell, and I really enjoyed it.
Yes. Yes.
I thought I enjoyed the fact that I guess it was maybe out of the box, if you would. It was different.
Yeah.
He don't claim to be a preacher. I thought he done an awful good job. But he don't claim to be evangelist. But yet he was allowed God to use him and help us. And I felt like He did help us.
That's right.
Yes.
If we wanted help.
Right.
But I've got this little thought on my heart tonight, and I feel like it's to help somebody. I don't know who. Sometimes when we begin to preach, it helps us. The one that's doing the delivery. But I began to think about this, and we'll turn your Bibles to the book of Matthew, chapter 9. And but I do appreciate the Lord. And like I said, I listened to Brother Scotty as he testified, and I wished I could quote scripture like he does. But I can't. I don't have that memory that he has, and God's blessed with it. God can use that,
Right.
and I appreciate that He can do that with some people. But He has given me the ability to read it, so that's what I'm going to do tonight. Amen. But Matthew chapter 9, we'll start reading at verse 16. He said, "No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment. For that which is put in to fill it up taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine in old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine in new bottles, and both are preserved. Thank you for standing for the reading. I thought the other day I was at work, and the building there is, we roofed part of it, I guess, summer before last, and the rest of it needs roofed. It's not beyond repairing, I guess, but it takes a lot of work to keep the leaks stopped. And I'm no roofer by no means, and I worked P&R roofing for just a couple months whenever I was about 18-year-old, 19, something like that. And but I guess you can say I learned enough about it to be dangerous. And I was up on the roof, and I was doing some patching. And as I was, we had a couple leaks in the office, a couple back in the plant, and I was up there and I was patching those. But the thing about the patching that I was doing was about 2 summers ago, I had already patched those spots, and they were leaking again. And because a patch is only temporary,
Right.
it's not meant to necessarily fix the problem.
Right.
It's only a patch. It is there to stop something that is existing that you know is there, and you're just trying to prevent it. I'm sure Brother Harold knows how to go in and with a new roof and go in and they get a patch, or somebody rips the material of a new roof, and especially with a rubber roof, he knows how to go in and fix that properly, and where it will not leak, and that patch will last as long as that roof. But when you go up there, you can still see that somebody patched on the new roof that we got. When I go up there, there's a couple spots that, for some reason, maybe they dropped something or whatever, but there's a couple little places that I can see where they I think they call welding it in now, and they welded that in there because somebody messed up. There's a patch there. It's obvious that it's not part of that big, pretty white roof that they wrote out there. But I began to think about those patching. And like I said, it's just a temporary solution.
Right.
But in our text we read, "No man putteth a piece of a new cloth unto an old garment, for that which is put in fill up and take from the garment." I remember being a kid, and we'd rough on clothes, rough on blue jeans when we was kids, and I remember wearing the knees out of my pants, and Mom take another pair of pants maybe that I'd outgrown, and she didn't just sew that hole, she would cut that hole out bigger, turn it in, tuck it, and then sew a new patch in there. And to be quite honest, that was not a comfortable fit. You could always feel that patch because of the way it had to be fixed.
Right.
I began to think about that, and thinking about this old garment, and sometimes they didn't use those. They didn't use no piece of blue jean. They go buy those patches and sew them in, and that was even worse because that material was stiff, and it was new. And those old blue jeans, I don't know if you're like I am, but when I go get a pair of pants working, brother, I usually get my worst ones because they're more comfortable. And I thought some of them have got holes in them. I don't want to patch, but I began to think about that putting that new material, that stiff material, into that old garment to try to repair it, but yet it only took away from the material
Right.
because it was not a permanent fix. That old material. I looked this up in my commentary, and Adam Clark. I like Matthew Henry most of the time, but I couldn't find nothing much he had to say about this. but Adam Clark, and he's another commentator, and he said it is that cloth which has been scored, or which has not passed under the hand of the fuller, and signifies a piece put on, or what we commonly use the term of a patch. He went on to say, it taketh from the garment, instead of closing up the rent, it makes a larger, by tearing away with the whole breadth of the cloth over which it is laid. It takes away from the fullness of the garment.
Right.
And I began to think about that patching. And I may not preach high tonight, but I'm going to live what I got on my heart. I began to think about patching. And a lot of times people like to use the term patching.
Yeah.
I thought I've heard people use the term when maybe them and their spouse has an argument, Brother Steve. And they say, well, we got things patched up. Well, that's good that you've made an amends there.
Will it last?
But will it last?
Right.
If you've patched it up, how long will it be before you argue again? I thought, I'm not going to stand here and say Sister Kathy and I have not had arguments. I'm not going to say we've not had disagreements. But the problem was a lot of times, she's here, she's my wife, I live with her, I know her. She can be stubborn, I can be stubborn. I mean, it's just the way we are. That's our makeup. But the problem is when we begin to rely on those things, when we have a disagreement, we go and we patch things up. It's not too long that we have another argument. But I'll say we have. But it's been a long time since we've had an argument because I don't see no need in patching things up. We've got to realize the source of our disagreements. We've got to realize what caused us to have those disagreements. Yeah. We've got to come to a neutral ground on those things and those situations. We don't patch them up, but we fix the situation. We fix the problem. And a lot of times we're doing the same thing with our spiritual life. When we come to this place where that we come up so far and then we fall back again.
Yeah.
And Brother Scott, I mentioned one of those Smith Wigglesworth said if you've not got further, I believe he said today than you was yesterday, then you're backsliding. That's a strong statement.
Right.
Because how long has it been since I progressed? I don't know about you, but I was coming home from work Friday, and whenever I leave work, and it's time for me to go home, I don't want to go nowhere else but home.
That's right.
I don't want to go to Walmart, I don't want to go to Kroger, I don't want to go nowhere. I mean, I don't even want to swing in at the dollar store. I want to go to the house. My sweetheart's there, Brother Tom. I'm ready to get home. And but I thought I left a little early Friday, and we'd done inventory, and they was doing some painting there in the office. And I told them, I said, I'm going to cop out on you guys today. I'm going home. Brother James said something about, or maybe David there in the office said, are you feeling bad? I said, no, it's pretty outside. I don't need beating around the bush. I was ready to go home. And but as I started home, and I'm sitting there at the intersection there at the bypass, and my light turned green for me to go. The people that was turning on to the bypass decided that they still wanted to go. And about 3 cars went in front of me, and I'm sitting there trying to go. And I'm hollering, get out of my way. What is wrong with you people? And then by the time I get through, some older lady decides that she thinks that the lane I'm driving in is the turning lane. And she pulled over right in front of me. And I looked, there was nobody, and I shot out around her. And to be honest, I began to get aggravated. I began to be agitated because of the things that was hindering me from progressing.
Come on.
And all I'm doing is driving. And there's things that's stopping me, Brother Scotty, from getting to where I want to be.
Right.
And so if we can get agitated when we're driving, no, I don't get road rage and start blowing my horn and all that stuff. But I still get, there's things that bothers you.
Come on now.
Brother Vaughn said he felt his horns growing, But yet we allow those things. But what about our progression with God?
Right.
When things begin to hinder us from getting to where we need to be with God, are we trying to fix the problem, or are we just patching it up?
Right.
I thought, those old patches that I put down, and guy brought us some material and said that we could do it that way, so that's what we done. It was a torch down roof. We swept the granules back. We put a little primer down there. We heated the torched up stuff down. We smacked it down over the place that was leaking, and it lasted for about a year or a year and a half or something. I don't know. But the problem is it began to dry. It came loose because it was over top of those granules. You still didn't get them all up. And but I thought I went back and I stepped on those and the water would squirt out of them. It's leaking there again. And I began to pull those patches away and throw them off. Because there was no need putting a new patch over top of the old patch.
Right.
It's just going to build up. And I thought, that's the way we're doing spiritually. We just keep building things up. Building things up. Lord, I'll patch it here. I'll patch it there. But what we need to do is tear down
That's right.
and replace. I thought, I know what needs to be done. But the plant's in process of, I guess, being sold. Things keep pushed back. I called the man that owns it, and I said, I've got leaks back here, and the inspector is on my neck, and I've got to get something done. And he said, patch it. I said, well, I've patched and patched. It needs to be fixed. And he says he talked to the new guy and told him that there's going to be some repairs that was necessary. I don't know what they made agreement on, and I hope they do fix it. But I thought, but I understand that, there's at a point that it has to be torn away and repaired.
Right.
And I thought sometimes we need to do that in our spiritual life. We just need to go and tear things out and repair.
Yes.
Like I said, as much as I like wearing a pair of blue jeans that's got good and faded and broke in and are comfortable. But Brother Steve, when you start patching them, they're not comfortable no more. I'm ready to get a new pair and begin to break them in again. And I thought, we need to do that spiritually. Lord, I'm tired of all of this patching up.
Yeah.
I don't understand people that want to continually patch things over whenever we can go back and make amends, make it right. I would hate to think that whenever I came in from work, that something that I had patched over, Brother Steve, might begin to leak around the edges a little bit, and I walk into a frustrated wife. Her upset, and those things that we had patched over begin to come loose again.
Right.
Whenever I know that I come home and there's nothing that was patched. Things that, we've had arguments, but we found the source of the problem, and we fixed it.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought we need to do the same thing spiritually. What keeps pulling us away from the love of God?
Right.
And I thought, whatever it is that's drawing us away from the love of God, we need to draw closer to Him.
Right.
This is Brother L.D. Moore yesterday, and if you've ever listened to him, I never got to hear him in person, as far as I know. Maybe when I was younger and didn't realize it, but I don't know. But I don't think I ever did. But I love to listen to him. He can be quite comical. But he's telling a story of a car, and I like cars, so anytime somebody starts talking about that, it gets my attention, especially. But he got to tell us about a car, and I don't even know what model it was. I remember it was a Chrysler. And it was an old one. And he said it was green, and he described the color of that car, and he talked about how pretty it was. And he said, when I went on the lot, he said, I seen that color, and I seen those dual arrow wires sticking up, dual antennas sticking up on the back of that thing. He said, it got my attention. He said, I liked the looks of it. And he said, I bought it, and I drove it home. He said, the first heavy dew that settled. He said, I got in that thing, and he went, and he would not start. And he said, every time a heavy dew would set, it would not start. And he was a pretty good mechanic, I reckon. And he said, I tore it down. I rebuilt the motor in that thing. He said, I thought, I've got it fixed again. The first heavy dew, he said, it wouldn't start. He said, I prayed and I talked to the Lord. And he said, the Lord told me to go trade it off. And he said, I traded it off. But he said, he said, that thing got me so bothered with Chrysler that I have never owned another one. And, and he pointed the whole dealership, the whole make, the whole model out on that one particular car. And I'm sure it was probably a flathead. They were bad for that, from what I understand. I never did own one, but those people that did. And I thought, but the thing was, he placed all of it out. And then he went on to say, he said, Lord, you tell me which one to buy and I'll buy it. He said he started a Pontiac up and the main was knocking. Lord said, buy that one. He said, Lord, there's a main knocking in it. He said, took it home, dropped the oil pan, put the main caps on it, drove it. You know, and he had a good outlook on the Pontiac. I particularly don't care for a Pontiac, even though it is a GM car. And, you know, but I thought all of those things. But it was simply following after the will of God. And because of one incident, he was ready to cast the other all aside. No matter how good it looked, no matter how appealing it was to the eye, because it didn't do the things that he thought it ought to do. It let him down. And I thought sometimes we look and we get our mindset the way we think things ought to turn out. And they don't turn out just exactly like that. We're going to just cast it aside.
Come on now.
And we do God the same way. Just because he don't move when we think he ought to. We want to patch it over and move on. I thought this ain't going nothing like I thought it would. But I thought when Jesus came to earth, he came for a specific purpose. And that was the salvation of all mankind. You know, there was a plan that was laid out. And you go back into the book of Leviticus and you look at the Levitical law, and God gave Moses orders, and he put the priest in place, and he gave all the, I mean, you go back beyond that. Even Abraham, they made sacrifices. There were sacrifices to be made. And then once Moses came in the picture, and they laid out the Levitical law, and they put the priest in order, and all those things, and it was working to a degree, but yet it was only a temporary thing.
That's right.
It was not completed.
That's right.
And I thought when Christ came, and he took away that patch, if you would, and he fulfilled, and he made a new garment, he made a new plan, he laid out a new plan, and I thought, and he made and the reason that, because it just wasn't working. Because man got his ideas and opinions into it. So what do you mean with that? Look at the money changers in the temple.
Right.
Jesus had to go in and drive them out. He said, you've turned my father's house into a house of thieves, a den of thieves. Because they had got in and they had took a plan, a patch, if you would, that God was allowing them to use for the redemption of their sins. And they began to extort it and make it something that it was not to be. But I thought when it comes to the blood of Jesus Christ, there's a lot of people that have offered a different way, but there's no way except through and by Jesus Christ. And I thought when we get all of us under the blood like we need to, but we won't be patching things up. We'll be getting things fixed like they need to.
Yeah.
I thought he went on to talk about putting new wine into old bottles. You got to realize that those bottles then was not like what we got now. I mean, if we had to go buy new jars every time we canned, then it would be a whole lot cheaper to go buy a can of Bush's baked beans. I mean, every time, and green beans or whatever, you know. But so we wash them, we get the contaminants out, we reuse our jars.
Yeah.
But these bottles that they was using were, from what I can understand and what I'm reading, was actually goat skins. And they would take those goat skins and they would cure them, and they would prepare them, and then they'd sew up the necks and stuff of them, and then they'd put that wine down in there. And the reason for that is as that wine began to ferment, it would expand. My cousin Richard, he's done passed on. He's killed in a car wreck, but he got the idea one day that he was going to make him some wine. He had a little house behind my aunt, and he got him a big jar and put him some stuff in there to ferment, and he screwed the lid down on it. And when that stuff began to ferment, began to work, he about blowed his house off the foundation. It blowed up, and so the reason for those skins was to expand.
Right.
But if they took that wine and they used it, and then they put that new wine back in that old skin, then it would burst because it couldn't expand, contract the way it needed to. And I thought, that's the way we've got to be with the salvation of God.
Right.
We got to take ourselves and we got to make ourselves new. You said, well, how do I do that? Nicodemus came to Jesus by night and said, what must I do to be saved? Jesus said, you got to be born again. He went on, well, how can I enter the second time in my mother's womb and be born? He was thinking on the carnal.
Right.
I can't do that. But Jesus said, you can be born again. And he began to explain to him. And I thought by taking on that new birth, then we're making ourselves new.
Right.
We begin to sanctify ourselves. And we begin to cleanse ourselves. And when we make ourselves new, and God begins to pour His Spirit upon us, I thought, we're not going to break under the load. Sometimes the pressure will get big and we think, I can't take this. But when we trust in God, I thought, we can do it.
Yeah.
I thought, there's no need in patching things up.
Right.
There's no need in trying to work over things. I thought we can have a relationship with God, that we can draw close to Him and have a newness. He said in Romans 12:1, I beseech you therefore, brother, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly according as God hath dealt with every man the measure of faith. And I thought, we can't conform to fashion or to try to fashion ourselves around the things of this world. We got to be conformed and transformed
Yes.
from the things of this world.
Yes.
And I thought that's the problem I feel like that a lot of times we're having problems with is the church itself is trying to conform to the things of the world.
Right.
And they said, well, if I look more like the world, then I can be more of a testimony to the world. But that's not what God said.
No.
He said, be ye
Right.
transformed
Transformed.
by the renewing of your mind. Be ye
Yes.
a separate person.
Yes.
And I thought through that, and through the life that you're living, then God can reach the world by you being a light, a city set on a hill
On the hill.
that cannot be healed. Well, you take that and you set it up there. It's there. It's bright. There's no concealing it. I thought, but yet we want to patch things over and say, well, I'm still. And a lot of times they want to refer back to the fact that I'm just a sinner that's been saved by grace. No, I was a sinner that was saved by grace. And by being saved by grace, no longer am I a sinner, but I've been renewed. I've been made something different.
Right. Yeah.
And I've not just patched over my broken life, but I've allowed God to make it new again.
Right.
That's right.
As they come against the song, I hope I've helped you. That's all I've had.
God.
But I thought, let's allow God to really make us new, to make us different.
Yeah.
And I thought when He does that, then it's not a rebuild job or a patch over job, but it's something new.
Yeah.
A few years ago, my father-in-law gave me a truck, and I've referred to this a lot. And old Seb Big Chevrolet, and there was literally a tree growing through the floorboard of that thing. And but he gave it to me. I wanted it. I wanted a four-wheel drive truck. And he said, "Fix it. You can have it." And I took it up to Brother Jim's. He had me put floorboards in it. I had never done nothing like that before. And so I cut both floorboards out, rocker panels and all, and put them back in. I didn't know that when I cut those rocker panels, that cab was going to go, whoo. I had no idea of that. And but we got it back in there. Brother Jim, he's merciful with me. I'm not a welder, by no means. And but he got some coat hangers and a torch. And he even provided the acetylene and oxygen, and that stuff ain't cheap. And he showed me how to braze that. And he got me going, and I actually brazed those floorboards back in. I had it looking pretty good. But every time, and I drove that truck for a long time, but every time I would get in it and I would shut my door, because Jim, I knew that I had done something wrong. Because it would hit that striker and I'd have to slam it. Because I allowed that cab to relax, spread apart. I didn't know that. I do now. If I redone one now, I know how to do it. And it wouldn't do that. But the thing I'm saying is it was something old, and I just want to patch it up and make something presentable out of it. Make something I could drive. And I did. I drove for a long time. But it was rusty. I patched some rust in the bed, done some different things. It's sitting behind my nephew's house right now. And all of those spots that I patched, now ones I cut out and replaced are still they're pretty good. But it's those spots that I patched have all busted out again. The moisture got behind there. The things that put pressure to it blowed it out. Because it was just a patch. But I thought everything that was fixed, even though I might have let it spread out a little bit, but it was fixed and it was cut out, old taken out, new put in, it's still there. I was up there the other day, it's still there. Still looks good. Yeah, the paint's faded off of it, coming off. But the things that were just patched are blown out. And you can tell it was a patch. And I thought tonight, if you're just patching something over,
Oh, God.
come to this altar.
Yeah.
And say, Lord, take this patch, rip it out, put something new in there.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of having the same episode over
Right.
and over and over. And that's what happens when we patch things. It just keeps reoccurring over
Right.
and over. But when it's done right, it's fixed.
Right.
Does that come against the song tonight? That's all I got. I thought, this altar's open. I thought, God wants you to help people fix things tonight. Not be patched, but fixed. I don't know who this is going to. I have no idea. But I know God laid it on my heart to fix things. Fix things. Does that give us a song tonight? Let's pray.